Hi guys, it's Keith with Arkenberg Farms here. It is about halfway through December 2020. Got about 15 days left of the year. Gonna be a little bit late getting this video out today because I'm just shooting it right now. It is very cold out. It is below freezing. It's about 30 degrees. Mustard greens finally gave up. But there's really not all that much going on the farm today, or this week for that matter. We got the new building all framed up. I actually hired a framer to do this. He was held up. I framed everything from here down. He just showed up and put the trusses up top. But he's going to put the metal on for me when the installation shows up. The company that was providing the installation thought they had some in stock. They didn't. That's how construction goes. So hopefully they'll be here tomorrow and they can start framing this up tomorrow, because I literally have 15 days to complete this whole entire building, including interior, which this is going to have dense glass drywall across it and FRP, along with all the plumbing for the wash tanks. And we also have a bathroom area that's got to be complete. Toilet, sink, shower, hand wash sink on the outside. So, needless to say, there is quite a bit of work to do on this. But the first thing is I got to get it closed in so I can get it heated and actually continue to work on it, because it's just too cold. I can't run wire right now. I can't run plumbing right now, just simply because it's too cold. So for this week, I'm gonna show you a video that I made for Mother Earth News Fair. I did a section on winter gardening, and I set up a poly low tunnel and did the full description, full detail on it. I also did a couple other. I did cat tunnel demonstration. I did row cover. I did row cover on hoops, the poly low tunnel, and also talked about the big greenhouse here. Did all that for Mother Earth News Fair. They did a winter gardening series this fall into winter. You can check it out if you want. But today I'm just going to show you the one on the poly low tunnel with conduit hoops. So check it out. Hope you all enjoy it. Now, the first two types of season extension I showed you work great. They're a little bit of a pain to keep down, but it's fabric. So when it rains, it goes through it. When the irrigation goes off, it goes through it. You don't have to do anything special. Just cover it up, bend it every once in a while, and then when you need it, you go and harvest what you want from your garden. Now, to get more advanced, we're going to move into plastic tunnels, which is a poly cover. You want to make sure to get typically 6 mil UV resistant poly. Now, it comes in all different shapes, sizes for what you're wanting to do. For this first one I'm going to show you, which is referred to as a poly low tunnel, you need some EMT conduit. This is the stuff they pull electrical lines through that you'll see on a building. This is just 1/2 inch. Then you need to make a form of some kind so you can bend. This one's actually bent for just a single bed. I'll show you that here later. Or drive stakes into the ground at the positions you want to bend at, and then you just bend the conduit around, or even get a tube bender. I mean, stuff's not that hard to bend. You gotta be careful, you can kink it, but once you get the hang of it, it's not much of a problem. Now, I've spaced my bows down the length of the bed, all the way down. Ideally, you want these about 10 feet apart. I can only find enough to where it looks like they're about 8 feet apart, but you'll kind of see why you want them closer, because we got a good amount of wind today, and typically, at least where we're at during the winter, it is one of the windiest times of the year as the atmosphere is changing. So you have to have a lot of good material in here to keep your tunnel sturdy. Never really had much of a problem with snow loads on these because they're so short, it basically just falls off. I mean, if you get a lot of snow on it, it's all the way up both sides anyways, which we don't get here anyways. But same thing with installing the hoops. Start at one side, and I'll work my way down. Just pushing them into the ground as I go. Now, as you can see, I've got the hoops all the way down. They don't have to be perfectly aligned. I mean, we're pretty close. See down the line of hoops there, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, this is just a temporary structure. All the hoops are bent a little different too. But the most important part is getting them into the ground. Now here's the problem with using a single 10-foot piece of EMT conduit to cover one bed is the height you get. This sidewall right here is almost 3 foot tall, which when the wind starts blowing in the winter creates an enormous amount of force on the side of this. Not only is it going to try to push it sideways, but it's also going to try to lift the plastic from the bottom and bring it up. And once air gets in here on this other side, it's also going to bring it up. So by stretching these out to cover 2 beds, like the one I have up front that I showed you, it puts the sidewall at more of an angle where the wind is more likely to flow over it than to try to flow through it. But again, it's also important to have your spacing correct. So every 5 foot, having bags at every hoop along the way will make it the best possible. You will also have to adjust them through the season because the wind will blow and it'll inevitably move stuff. But I would have thought that these would actually probably done better had I cut them off here and here possibly. So I would have had roughly 8 foot of conduit. This would have created a much smaller hoop, but a more stable hoop. That would have basically just taken me back to the same thing as the hoops on row cover. So instead I stretched them out to cover 2 beds, which has worked great. Now for additional rigidity, I like to run rope down this, kind of like a ridge pole, ridge strap, similar to the Caterpillar tunnels that you see through Farmer's Friend, where they have a ridge strap on them. So what we do is we drive a piece of rebar about 2 foot long into the ground at a 45-degree angle to start with. From here, make a loop, tie a knot. Gives us something to start off of. Now we're going to go down each of these bows and go up, over, 1 wrap, go around again for a 2nd wrap. I found if you just do 1 wrap, they like to move. It's not enough surface area to keep it tight on there. I mean, it keeps the whole thing tight across, but the individual bows can slide back and forth. See, right here, I've got 2 loops around, and now it's moving the whole bow. It's not actually tightening it. So what I'll have to do on each of these is pull the slack out and then bring my string up and move to the next one. So here is where we're at on the poly load tunnel at this point. Got our rebar stake on the end, single knot tied off to it for our ridge strap. We wrapped around each of these twice. I don't know if you could notice when I was doing it, but what I did is I wrapped one side of the rope and then came over and wrapped the other side of the rope. By doing that, it actually locks the rope onto itself where it crosses over, so you can see right there, making this whole thing good and sturdy. And I can move the one and the whole thing is good and tight. And we just go all the way down and repeat the same thing. And again, we're not looking for perfect on this either. We're just trying to get a nice solid ridge pull. I mean, if we're a little off to the left or right, it doesn't matter. So now comes the fun part. Like any time I decide to get big giant pieces of plastic out to cover things, we get a beautifully windy day like today. So this will be fun. And I'm going to be doing this by myself because that's typically the way I work out here when I'm setting up stuff. And it also helps people see the techniques to be able to do it with just one person. Two people, it is a lot easier. I'll tell you that right now. Take you half the time, half the frustration. But it's what I do sometimes. So let's go get the plastic and get to stretching. Now what I did there was bring in my poly, the pieces of conduit, the metal EMT conduit are 10 foot long. That's the standard size they come. So you want to make sure to have a piece of poly that's at least 10 foot, if not a little larger on the width. Now for your length, you want to make sure to have about 5 foot extra on each end. So if you're doing a 50 foot bed, you need about a 60 foot piece of plastic. My beds are 40 foot long, so I need about a 50 foot piece of plastic. I intentionally have my beds that length because of that. I can get a 100 foot roll, cut it in half, and then I have two pieces. Now, the piece of poly I actually had for this tunnel from last year, turns out that I cut it to make pieces to solarize with. So that didn't work. Luckily enough, I had another piece which is only 40 foot long, so I'm losing 10 foot of my bed when I set it up. But what I did was I drug everything down here. I'm on the incoming wind side, so this will hold itself in place. I got one side and I dropped row bags at each hoop all the way down. Again, if you were doing this for a permanent winter setup, you would have these hoops at every 5 foot. I have a much greater spacing than that right now because I can't find the rest of my hoops at this point in time. So next thing we'll do is pull it over the top. Drop some bags on the other side and get it secured down so we can see what it looks like. Now we'll just start down here at this first end, pull it over, drop a bag on the corner, and we'll work our way all the way down. Now from here I'll start tensioning. I'll start in the middle hoop on each side and then work my way one way and then the other. I'll pull the plastic tight, reset the bag, and work my way all the way down doing that so we get a nice straight stretch across both sides. Now there we go. We have a full poly low tunnel. It covers 2 beds, which would be 2 30-inch beds with an 18-inch walkway. So it's a little under 8 foot. So you can see we got the row bags at each hoop. We got our ridge rope up at top. Come down to the ends. We pull around the ends and gather as much plastic as possible at the ends and pull it up underneath the bags towards where our center pin was. You want to do that on both ends. You'll have to kind of adjust it as you go. The wind will start to move it a little, but the more hoops you have in here, the more sturdy this is and the less likely the wind is to start to blow up underneath this and actually remove this from the bed. Now with our poly low tunnel complete, we'll move on to the next progression in season extension, and that is the caterpillar tunnel. I'll take you back to some footage I shot earlier this year and show you how we build those.